Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into a really fascinating topic: how political leaders actually deal with their intelligence services. We'll be looking at this through the lens of an anthropological model developed by Dr. Amit Steinhart.
Just think about that for a second. When a leader gets that top secret daily briefing, what's really going on in their head? Do they all trust the information they're getting? Do they even read it the same way? Well, it turns out the answer is a big, resounding no.
All right, so let's get into the model itself. Dr. Steinhart's framework basically says we can sort leaders into 5 different categories. These types are based on their personal background, their general attitude, and most importantly, how they actually interact with the spies and analysts. And trust me, understanding these types tells you a ton about how some of the biggest decisions on the planet get made.
So let's start with the first two types. What these two have in common is a pretty deep and respectful relationship with the intelligence world, even though they get there from completely different places.
First up, we have the intelligence professional. This is the ultimate insider. This is the leader who's actually worked in the system. They know the lingo, they know the culture, and they know the right questions to ask. They don't just get intelligence reports. They know how the sausage is made, so to speak. They've lived it, and they get both its power and its limits.
And you can see this in the real world, right? George H.W. Bush was literally the director of the CIA before he became president. In Israel, you had Ehud Barak, a former head of military intelligence, and a very current example is Dick Schoof in the Netherlands, who ran their intelligence service and then became prime minister. These leaders aren't just reading the mail, they're expert users of the system.
Okay, next up is the scholar supporter. Now, this leader has not come from the world of espionage, but, and this is key, they have a huge amount of respect for it. They're the types to do their homework, to listen really carefully to their briefers, and to view the intelligence community as this vital source of expert knowledge. They genuinely trust the process and the people running it.
Think about Ronald Reagan, for example. The president's daily brief was a central part of his morning routine, every single day. Or look at Joe Biden, who made it a point to restore a very formal process-driven relationship with the intelligence agencies. Over in France, you have Emmanuel Macron, who really leans on expert analysis for his decision-making. These leaders respect the craft, even if they've never practiced it themselves.
All right, so far we've met the leaders who engage with their intelligence agencies in a pretty positive way. But now we're going to step into the world of the skeptics. These are the leaders who look at their spy agencies with a whole lot of suspicion. But, as you're about to see, not all critics are the same.
So meet the educated critic. This one is really fascinating. They're usually savvy, experienced politicians, and they know they absolutely need intelligence to govern. But, and it's a big but, they are deeply cynical about the organizations that provide it. They're always worried about a deep state or a bureaucracy pushing its own agenda. So, yeah, they'll use the info, but always with a massive grain of salt.
I mean, the classic case here is Richard Nixon, who was famously paranoid about the CIA. More recently, you can see these traits in a leader like Benjamin Netanyahu, who consumes a ton of intelligence but is often publicly questioning the motives of his own security chiefs. Or look at Viktor Orban in Hungary, who definitely understands the power of these agencies but seems to view them mainly as a tool for political control.
And this really gets to the heart of the difference between our two critic types. The educated critic, they still engage. It might be a constant battle, but they're in the meetings, they're reading the reports, they're just always looking for the angle. The free critic, though, they've got a problem with the whole idea of these big secret agencies to begin with.
The free critic doesn't just distrust the players, they fundamentally dislike the entire game. From their point of view, intelligence agencies are either dangerous or maybe just a waste of time. They don't want to get bogged down in detailed reports, and they tend to keep the spy chiefs at arm's length. For them, the skepticism is philosophical.
A great historical example is Harry Truman. After World War II, he was really worried that a permanent CIA would turn into an American Gestapo. And then, of course, you have Donald Trump, who wasn't shy about publicly attacking his own intelligence agencies and questioning their conclusions on major global issues. It's a clear pattern of pushing away and trying to delegitimize the institutions themselves. Okay, that brings us to the 5th and final category in Dr. Steinhart's model. And I have to say, this one is probably the most dangerous of them all.
So, the fool disciple. What makes this type so risky is a combination of ignorance and arrogance. Their idea of what intelligence is comes more from spy movies than reality. They're not interested in nuance or complexity. Instead, they cherry-pick bits and pieces of information not to become better informed, but to back up a decision they've already made. It's the politicization of intelligence in its most toxic form, because it's driven by powerful, pre-existing beliefs, not facts.
And you can see how this can play out.
For instance, the intelligence used in the lead-up to the Iraq War under George W. Bush is often cited as a case where information was selected to fit a policy goal. In Italy, Silvio Berlusconi was known for relying on political showmanship and his close circle over professional analysis. And then you have someone like Robert Fico in Slovakia, who actively pushes conspiracy narratives while dismissing official intelligence from Western agencies.
So let's just do a quick recap of all 5. You've got the expert insider, the intelligence professional, the respectful student, the scholar supporter, the suspicious but engaged educated critic, the dismissive and disengaged free critic, and finally, the dangerously misinformed fool disciple. The main takeaway here is that each of these types has a totally different relationship with truth, with power, and with expertise itself.
Okay, so this is all very interesting, but it's not just some academic theory. Figuring out which box a leader fits into has huge, real-world consequences for every single one of us.
Because think about it, the way a leader takes in secret information is going to directly affect their choices about war and peace, terrorism, global health crises, you name it. Their type literally shapes their reality, and by extension, our reality. By using this framework, we can get a much better sense of how a leader might act when that emergency phone call rings at 3 in the morning. Are they going to listen to the experts? Are they going to fight them? Are they just going to ignore them? Or, maybe worst of all, are they going to twist the facts to fit a story they already want to tell? This model gives us a pretty powerful tool for anticipating what might come next.
And so that's the final question I want to leave you with. When you look around at the world leaders in the news right now, which categories do they fall into? Because recognizing these patterns isn't just about understanding the past, it's about being prepared for the future.